If you are a parent who wants their kids to get into medical school, or if you're a pre-med student yourself who's trying to figure out the whole process, this video is for you. Hello everyone, my name is Omar Hagag, and today in this podcast, I'm joined by Dr. Thabit Hagag. He is a doctor of 20 years as an orthopedic surgeon with over 10 years of medical school admissions experience. This episode is going to be packed with value, and if you want direct one-on-one help, we will leave a link in the description where you can book a free call. So, Dr. Thabit Hagag, thank you for being here today. I want to split our podcast into 3 sections. Section 1, we will cover the application itself. Section 2, we will cover the interviews. And Section 3 will be guidance, planning, and just general things that parents and students should do moving forward. Does that sound good?
Sounds like a plan. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you for being here. So, to start us off, first question. As someone who evaluated hundreds of real applications and real applicants, what makes an applicant stand out immediately?
Yeah, that's a very good question to start with. I think our future is very good. We have a very smart students applying for medical school. All of them are very outstanding applicants. And really, was very excited to review the applications. I think the most important that make the application stand out, that the application has to show the passion about being a doctor. It's not because the parents push you to be a doctor or just seeking other motivations to be a doctor, but have to be really have to be a doctor, enjoy the career, enjoy the journey to be a doctor. That's number one factor. Make your application stand out compared to the rest of applications. And this has to be, it's not just a say, it has to, the application, your application has to prove this passion about medicine and how you love to be a doctor. And this can be demonstrated by different factors, including your volunteer activities in clinics, in hospitals, in international missions in other countries, and also can be demonstrated by shadowing successful physicians and mentors during high school, during your college time, and also can demonstrate how much research you did during your college to contribute to medicine as a science. So, in summary, I think that passion and you prove to the application or the admission committee that you love to be a doctor, and this is something come from your heart, inside your heart, and this has to be proved by different factors. It's not in your application, your CV, in your resume have to prove all of that.
That's a great point, especially the point where you're highlighting that your parents are not the ones pushing you, for example, that it's really your own passion and you love medicine.
Yes, that's a very important point. There has to be internal motivation to pursue medicine as a career.
Yeah, because if you are pursuing medicine for external things, you're not really going to make it because it's a 10 to 15 year journey, right?
So yeah, it's a long journey and have a lot of exam, a lot of applications, either for the school, for grants, for residency, for fellowship, and also challenges when you start your career. It's a lot of challenges along the way. And really you need to like it to continue the career. Otherwise, it will be difficult journey for you.
So we talked about what makes an applicant stand out. Let's talk about the other side. What are some red flags that committees or admissions officers can immediately spot right away?
That the application does not support what you're saying in your application. By lacking of shadowing or volunteering or research activities or interest to have a bright future.
Great. So part of the application is the personal statement or the personal essay. So how should students approach the personal statements and their essays so that way they don't sound like everyone else?
I mean, the personal statement is a very critical in your application, and it has to show why you're interested to be a doctor, why you're interested in this program, and how you convince the application committee to join this particular school or this particular program. And the key factors for personal statement, it has to be personal, And now everyone using AI to edit and write. My recommendation: try not to do that, because the AI, it is generic. It's not personal. Try to spend some time and effort to edit and write a good personal statement. And also, it's very useful to have a set of eyes to review your applications for error, because it's a one-page statement, and any small error can have has a negative impact and bad impression about your accuracy and your meticulous review of your personal statement. It has to be short and sweet and has a good summary why you want to be a doctor and why you want this program in particular.
Makes sense. Can you give us an example of a really good personal statement that you've seen?
I mean, the personal statement is personal. There is really no set what looks like a good statement, a personal statement. And the good personal statement, as I told you, has to be personal, has to be short and sweet and reflect the motivation. But there is no solid rule what's a good personal statement looks like, but has to be accurate and reflect your motivation, why you want to be a doctor.
Perfect. So earlier you mentioned the importance of things like shadowing and research and stuff like that. So how important are those things? How important are things like shadowing, clinical jobs, or volunteering? And how have you seen most commonly people land such opportunities?
I think it's when we said that you have to prove to the admission committee that you love to be a doctor, and it's not just a say, you have to prove this. All these factors, shadowing, volunteering, research, it served two main things. Number one, it proof to the admission committee and the people who are in charge of the school that you are really like to be a doctor and you are passionate about medicine and healthcare in general. Mm-hmm. Number two, it also gives you the time and opportunity to see what real life experience in medicine. So you decide on your own if you want to continue this journey or not. So it's very useful for you to make your application stronger, but also on the other hand, it gives you the real life experiences if you want to continue with the medical school journey. It's very important. And landing for opportunity has to different ways. It can come through personal connections with people you know, people you treated. They are like your doctor, your pediatrician, your family medicine doctor, or somebody, orthopedic surgeon who fix your ECL during sports injuries or fix something in your body. Sometimes it comes that way, but also you have to take you have to initiate the process by contact different places, looking for volunteering, shadowing, or research opportunities. And some people also take a gap year in order to boost their application, to make their application stand out compared to the rest of applicants. There's different ways to do it, but I think if you have a clear goal where you want to end up, you'll find a way for volunteering or shadowing to make your application stronger.
So those are really good points. Back to the point where it's like, how important are the things like shadowing and volunteering and stuff like that? Not only is important for the admissions officer to see that you love medicine, but you're also saying that it's important for yourself, so that way you actually really see what it's like to be a doctor, to be in those situations where you're around certain environments where there's medicine being involved. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying, I think, for example, when I decided, after finishing my medical school, I have option to be a cardiologist, to be orthopedic surgeon, different specialties. But when some people come to see the surgeon, see the blood, they decided, no, this is not for me. Let me find something else in different specialty. And the other way around, some people go to radiology, go to ER. No, this is not I don't see myself in these situations. It's very useful for you to see the real life experience, and you decide, this is this will work for me, or this will not work for me, or will not work for me.
Nice. So from an admissions perspective, what is a range, or what is an MCAT score that is generally considered competitive? And what score is good enough so where you're able to like pass on to the next level of admissions?
So I think all the admission committee, or the people who are in charge of the initial screening of applicants, they look for application in the entire application as a one package.
Like holistic.
Yes, holistic, or the review of the applications. So look for the scores, they look for your shadowing experience, volunteering experience, how many publications you did, how many presentation conferences you did, and what's your letter of recommendation looks like. But when we come to the score is very, very critical. And I say score of MCAT 500 or more is very strong point in your application. However, there is no solid. Some people with little lower MCAT score is still able to give the interview and able to join medical school because the rest of their application is stronger and compensate for lower MCAT score. But I think is my humble advice for everyone: get in charge of the process. Don't let the process control you. The more or the higher MCAT score and higher GPA will put you in a different spot and make your application stand out completely different from other people with lower scores. So it make your application in a different spot.
Yeah. And I know
increase of chances of getting interview in different schools, increase your options as well, and also maybe chance of getting a scholarship as well.
Yeah. So it seems like MCAT is very important.
It's very important, but it's not the only factor that decide if you get an interview or not. But I'm saying it's very important, but it's not the only factor. And the entire or the holistic application is very important to get through.
Okay. And just kind of, let's say someone watching this is going through the process of taking their MCAT. What advice would you give them for effective MCAT preparation?
I think that's all standardized exam, including MCAT or SAT or other exam for college admission, for medical school admission. So I say my experience is give yourself enough time to get ready for the exam, practice all the Q bank or the question bank available for the test multiple times. Don't sign for the exam till you do the mock exam and find yourself ready for the exam, and then you do the exam. Because you don't like to repeat the exam. You can definitely repeat the exam multiple times, but there's a lot of cost, a lot of time, a lot of commitment. So my advice is for everyone: enough time, enough in preparation, do all the Q bank, and then do the mock exam. If you find yourself ready for the test, go ahead and do it. If you think the test, you're not ready for the test, don't sign up for the exam till you get the score you want, and then go ahead and do it. And say, if you don't have the score you like, you can repeat the exam. You have to look for the score report, find what are your weak points or your strong points, and try to manage your weaker points and work on the weak points and fix it, and then also keep the strong point even stronger, and then that's what increases your chances to get the score you want.
So from your experience on the admissions committee, how important and how valuable is a strong letter of recommendation in the final decision?
Yeah, the letter of recommendations really play a very critical factor in your applications, because this is just imagine that a person who worked with you for a long time and in a close contact with you in the classroom, in the research lab, on the in teaching assistant, if you work a teaching assistant with your professor, that's a letter that summarizes the experience of your professor or your mentor working with you, closely with you. So it really is very, very important. It has to be something the medical school or the admission committee read it very carefully, and good or glowing letter of recommendations play very important in selection for applicant for interviews. And this is my advice for you as an applicant. Please look for somebody who give you a strong letter of recommendation, because this play a huge factor in your application. On the other hand, some schools have like an admission or letter of recommendation committee, and the letter of recommendation does not come from individuals. It comes from the school itself, and different people voting for your letter of recommendations. And you have to be in a good connection with everybody. You have to impress everybody working with you, because at some point, this good work, your strong work with your professors in the classroom, the research lab, will make a critical role in your future as applicant for medical school. So good letter of recommendations are very important factor in your application. Work hard on them. Choose the correct people to do it for you, and get along with everybody, because sometimes a committee write the letter of recommendation for you.
And you mentioned a glowing letter of recommendation. In your opinion and from your experience, what makes a glowing letter of recommendation? What are some things that when you see in a letter of recommendation, you're like, oh wow, like we should really take this applicant more seriously?
No, I think, of course, everyone look for the academic performance of the student in the school, but the letter of recommendation also, your transcript can say that. So the letter of recommendation mentioned that the personal traits or the personal factors of the student that make the student different from the rest of the students, like his communication skills, his interaction with the professor, his motivation, his vision for his future, his goals, career goals in the future, and also comparison between the student, because you get the letter of recommendation from people who are professor or mentors or working for the career of medicine for a long time. So they see a lot of rotating students. When the person who writes the letter of recommendation said, this is the student, the top 5% of the student I worked with, that make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So it's really important. That's why my humble advice for the student, to try to select or ask for the correct person to give you a good letter of recommendation, because this will take application to a different area.
Okay. And how many letters of recommendations do students submit when they're applying for medical school anyway?
I say around 3 letter of recommendations. Most of the schools require 3 letter of recommendations.
And typically, have you seen that's from like their professors, or where do you see these letters of recommendation coming from most commonly in relation to the student?
It differs from school to school. So I say some schools have committee that give a letter of recommendation about the performance of the student, but but other schools don't follow these rules. So it comes from your professor that you work with you for research for a year or 2 years, or you worked with you as a teaching assistant, or somebody who watched you closely on your college time. It really it depends. The letter of recommendation can come from different people, but try to pick up the one that will support your application and trust you and work closely to you and watch you closely. That's the best letter of recommendation you can get.
Okay, so we talked about MCAT. We talked about the importance of shadowing and research and stuff like that. And we talked about letters of recommendation. Now I want us to talk about GPA. So if a student had an average GPA or they struggled in a class, can other things like letter of recommendation, other things like research help balance that out? Or is there like a hard cutoff?
The admission committee look at the application, the entire application, including your academic performance, your letter of recommendations, your passion about medicine. When we come to the point for academic performance, we have two main factors, which is your transcript from the school and also your GPA in general and your MCAT score. When you come to the GPA score, the admission or this medical school, they always interested to the best or the high top performance students, but this is not the only factor that decide your application or you will get an interview or not. I think the GPA is very, very important, but is not the only factor that decide you will be accepted to medical school. And say you have an average GPA, this doesn't mean that your application will be rejected, because there's other factors in your application, your shadowing, your volunteering, your international mission trips. Other factors can compensate for your average GPA and also your MCAT score and also your letter of recommendations. But don't be frustrated, disappointed if you have average GPA. The other factors in your application make your application stronger and compensate for this average GPA. The other factors.
And the other things can help balance the application out.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
So, do medical schools prefer science majors over non-science majors? Or is the major itself not as important as people think?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think I got this question all the time from students who apply for medical school. I don't think the major make a difference. However, it make you easier because if you have good background in biology or other science major, it will be more convenient and make your life in the school is easier. However, as we know, medicine now is become as different things together. You see patients based on science. You have a business, medicine as a business, because now you have the private practice. You have all these factors controlling medicine as a business, and also you have as an education or educator, and also as a researcher. So the beauty of medicine that it have everything together. You have a BB doctor seeing patients, service provider. Number two, you can be a researcher, you can be an educator, you can be also running the business or medicine as a business. So definitely all these factors, and computer science, now we have the electronic medical records. All patient information are managed or handled by computer or electronic medical records. So computer science and AI, all these factors, very good major and help you to go through the medical school. So my short answer is the major is not as important as people think, but you should be able to join medical school if you are not taking, but there's some requirement. Yes, there's a requirement for medical school you have to fulfill. You have some biology, certain hours, but the major is not as important as people think.
So if we have two pre-med students, one is a business major and one is a biology major, would you say there's a preference towards one, or they're both treated equally considering they both have the same pre-med classes and the same requirements fulfilled?
I think both people will be treated equally, and the application will be reviewed by the screening committee and look at the application as the entire application, and people are not biased toward biology major or business major. It does not is not factor or needed to be accepted in the school, in the medical school.
Perfect. So for the people watching, what should students keep in mind when they are choosing an undergraduate major if their long-term goal is to go into medical school and become a doctor later on?
I think the most important factor, they should look for the requirements of the school and the requirements for you to pursue the pre-med pathway, but pick up the major you want and the major you love and you feel in passion with, and then fulfill the requirement for admission for school and the credit hours required, and should be good to go.
Okay. So this is kind of like this next question is kind of like an all-encompassing question. What did the strongest applicants have in common beyond just good test grades and good GPA?
I think in common that they have passion about medicine. And this is kind of like an easy and something easy to claim, but sometimes hard to prove. But in common, it's all of them, they enjoying helping people, they enjoying working around people in need, and they enjoy making a difference or impact on the life of these patients that need help. That's in common, and every other factors will come after that. And then the being smart and bright students, that's very important, and have very good communication skills and motivation to be successful in medicine in general.
Great answer. Okay, so now we will be moving on to section number 2, which is the interviews. So during these interviews, from the admissions committee's perspective, what are you guys looking for in these interviews? For example, are you looking for passion? Are you looking for good communication skills? Are you looking for leadership? What are you looking for?
So
what traits are you looking for?
Yeah, the traits, number one, it's come to 2 major points. Number one, we need to why you decided to be a doctor. This is number one. Number two, why this particular school you are applying for, why this city or why this population that you're looking for. That's the major factors we are looking for in the interview. And then we come why you want the doctor. And there is multiple factors, as I told you, in your application, your discussion, the interview, you have to prove your passion about medicine. And when you decided to be a doctor, either during high school or your grandparents are sick and died of cancer and you decided to help the people with the same condition, or you have a personal experience, you have you have knee injuries, and you need to help people with the same situations. All these factors come into discussion during the interview. And then the second factor, what did you do during your high school, your college time to be a doctor? How did you build your application to be a strong candidate for medical school? Then after these factors, we need to see why this particular school. You have to prove to that committee that you're really is not just random school you're looking for, but you're looking for this particular school because of the diversity of patient population, because of helping underserved population. I like the curriculum. I like the professors. I visited this area. I'm familiar with this place, and I really like it. And I see myself as a student in this place. And then we'll come to the city. I like this city because people are nicer, maybe some sports activities, outdoor activities I like the patient population, I like the people on underserved population in this area. So that's the main discussion. And some interviewer give you situations to see how you will behave during the situations. And reflecting your honesty, questioning mind, in problem-solving skills, all these factors together that may play factor in the interview, or looking for these traits in the applicant during the interview. Then at the end of the interview, we'll say this is high priority, this need a pre-match, this is rejected, maybe this is a questionable applicant. So the decision done usually very quick.
Okay. And for these medical school interviews, how do you suggest students prepare?
So I say practice, and practice with other people. Try to predict what are the questions. And if you see a point in your application that make you weaker, the interviewer may discuss this point. Say you didn't do any research, and you need to answer because they may discuss this point with you. Have to prepare an answer for this weaker point in your application. And also maybe low GPA score or something like that. Expect unexpected and get ready for it. That's very important.
To practice.
Practice and expect unexpected, because you may surprised by unexpected question. And this is part of the trick. Need to be prepared how to manage these tough situations by smart and good answers.
And effective thought process and effective,
Exactly.
thinking quick, because not
Exactly.
everything as a doctor is going to be calculated, and
Yes.
not everything is going to be super expected.
Exactly. True.
Okay. So you've interviewed, as part of the medical school admissions committee, you've interviewed hundreds of applicants. What are some common mistakes that you've seen people make on these interviews?
So I think lack of preparation is very important factor. And as I told you, the background, I saw a lot of very weird backgrounds during the virtual interviews. And the people, when the first questions, most common, that people ask, can you introduce yourself to me? And people either too short or too long. You have to calculate this easy looking questions, kind of question that looks easy, but is not as easy as people imagine, because in 2 minutes or maybe 3 minutes, you need to focus on the most important factor in your resume, in your application, your career, to make you stand out compared to the rest of the applicants. And I say lack of preparation is the most common mistake. Lack of preparation.
And that's a really good point. The lack of preparation is huge. What have you seen as a mistake that people have made when answering one of the questions? For example, they maybe were lying, maybe they were giving a story that doesn't really make sense, or maybe they were just being very brief in their answers. What are some what are some common mistakes that you've seen when actually answering the question?
Most of the time, it's just very short answers. Is not the applicant didn't elaborate enough about the point we discussed, and lack of emotions and passion during the interview. That sometimes one of the most common mistakes, or the few common mistakes.
So let's talk about the flip side of this. So when as the medical school admissions officer, when you are interviewing a candidate, what does a great interview look like? Like, what are some things that they do or say during the interview that you're like, wow, okay, this guy is high priority, maybe even pre-match. If not pre-match, we're definitely going to move on to the next stage.
Yeah, I think the interview, imagine you're talking for a person for 15, 20 minutes, and you like this discussions because it's personal, it's very accurate, and very focused on the points that we discussed during the interview. And the applicant was able to show his passion about medicine. The applicant was able to show his interest in medicine, and how bright he is during the interview, has good communication skills. And we enjoyed the discussion, and he showed interest in this program on this particular school, and the curriculum of the school, that make the applicant very strong, to the degree that we make this applicant high priority. Even we can offer or offer the applicant, him or her, the pre-match opportunity.
So it seems like it's a mix of being very well prepared, and it's a mix of showing your skills. It's a mix of demonstrating your communication, your leadership, and your problem solving.
Exactly. That's true.
Okay. And so now I want us to move on to the third section, which is just general next steps, or just general pieces of advice for the people who are interested in entering medical school in the long term. So what is your opinion on taking a gap year, and who benefits from it the most?
I think gap year can be a very useful decision in the student application, because they need some time to diversify their experiences and also to boost their application. And especially if they say they have weak point in their application, they want to boost their application. I think that's sometimes very useful. and some people use the gap year in some sort of degree, master degree in biomedical science, biomedical engineer, research. I mean, do some research in the lab, and all these factors together, or a mission trip outside the country in different regions of the world that make their application stronger, I think is very useful, but have to be calculated right, because it add cost, make your medical school a little bit longer. But I have several medical students who successfully student who successfully decided to do a gap year and make their application very strong. I recommend it, but it have to be calculated right.
Okay. So for someone who has the end goal of applying to medical school and they are going to take a gap year, what are some of the best ways to fully take advantage of this gap year?
So I say it depend what you're plan to do in this gap year. Say, for example, the research, you have to be minded that the research projects take longer time, and the research take a year or two to get the result of the one research projects. You have to put this into calculation. Maybe it's not a gap year, maybe it's gap 2 years. It's not instead of 1 year, maybe a little bit longer, in order to find the impact of the gap year in your CV and your application, make it stronger. So this is for research side. If you decided to do mission trip or other things, it may need a shorter time, but you have to look for the strong points and the weaker points of the gap year, and try to work around it to boost your application and achieve your goals.
Okay. So we talked about what makes a gap year effective. Let's talk about what makes a gap year kind of like a waste of time. So from what you've seen, what are some of the best ways that you've seen people mess up or destroy their gap year?
I think if they think the gap year is a long time,
Is a vacation.
take time off the school and do nonsense stuff, and waste their time. They are not engaged in research projects. Laser focused research projects, and that will be a waste of time or employment. It will be a waste of time.
Okay. So most medical school applications open up in May. Should students actually have their applications fully finished before May? And if so, what is an advantage or a bonus of applying early to medical school?
I think, we said about preparation, and the preparation in order to be effectively prepared, have to review the application multiple times yourself, and ask other people to review your application to make your application stronger. And also, you need to get a letter of recommendations, and most of the professors and the doctors and the mentors are busy, and there is no one able to write the letter of recommendation right away. Take weeks, sometimes longer, depending on their availability to write the letter of recommendations. So my recommendation to start earlier. The earlier you start, the less stressful the process will be. So my recommendation to start early as possible, and to try to get everything together before the deadlines, and then after this, review everything and then apply. That's very, very critical.
So let's say the application opens up in May and someone has their application fully ready and they submit the first day of May, or like the first day the applications are open. What are some of the benefits of doing that versus waiting a month or two before actually applying?
I think if you just, there is all medical school in Texas have application time frame. You need to review all of this. As long as you don't have to apply the first day of the application open, but the earlier is better to give you enough time to review your application. Also, for the school to get you scheduled interview in a convenient time. I think the earlier is better, but it's not necessarily. If you think you need extra time to fine-tune your application, make it stronger, it's okay. But general rule is the earlier the better if you can.
You mentioned that when you're going to apply to medical school, you need to prepare, and review your application. How do you recommend students review their application? Is it more so sending it to their mentors and saying, okay, mentor, what do you think about this? Or is it hiring a coach who specializes in medical school admissions? Or is it more so reviewing with your parents or people from college? What do you think that review process really looks like?
I think you have to put your perspective in put yourself in the perspective of the school or somebody review your application to pick up the weak points and try to fix it. That's very important, especially language and typos errors and all these small things that need to be addressed. And I think if you able to do it yourself, that's great, that's fine. But I always, once you review the application multiple times, your eyes get used to it. You're able to, it will be difficult for you to pick up the mistakes. So it's better to have another set of eyes to review it for you, either somebody you trust or a colleague, or some people you know from already student on the medical school. They can review your application. And then also, if you have the resources, you can ask for somebody to hire somebody to review your application. But the point is you need to have different sets of different people review application to pick up any mistakes or weak points in the application.
Different sets of eyes, because
Exactly.
that's a good point, where you read the same thing over and over again. It's very hard for you to pick up the small mistakes.
Exactly.
So, doctor, if a student came to you today and they said, doctor, I want to get into medical school, but I feel lost and I don't know what my next steps are, what would you tell that student? What would be the first thing that you tell that student? First action step, first thing to do, first thing to consider?
I think the first thing to consider to do a little bit of a shadowing,
Okay.
because the shadowing, as I told you, would give you opportunity to boost your application, but the other benefit of the shadowing to get the real life experience. And then once you shadow successful people, successful doctors, successful mentors, you will decide, yeah, that maybe work for me. That's good. Let me move forward. Let me be focused. Let me put everything together and then move forward. Or if you have a shadowing, no, this is not. I don't see myself in this in this career. Then I need to find something else. I think the first step, ask them to do a little bit more shadowing for multiple peoples, and then they can decide if they want to continue the journey or not.
And what would you tell them in terms of academics?
Academics, all medical school look for the best students and recommend to focus on their exam, their preparation for courses, and to get the best score possible, because their academic performance that make them stand out compared to the other students, because all medical school want the best students.
Okay. How important is mentorship during the medical school application process?
That's a very, very important point. That's a great point, great question. I'm glad you asked, because the mentor can help you through the process by give you the best set of advice, also can guide you, can help you with the application process, can use his personal connections to help you with the shadowing, volunteering, and research. All these factors together make your application stronger, and also can give you strong letter of recommendation, as we mentioned, glowing letter of recommendations. So as a mentor, make a huge difference in your life and your application process during medical school.
Okay.
So try to look for good mentors. That's very critical.
And let's say someone is a pre-med student. What is an example of a good mentor that they should seek and pursue?
I think that supportive and honest, and give you helpful, have a strong network to help you to move in the career of medicine.
Okay. And I want to go back to the topic of letters of recommendation. So we discussed that the application opens up in May, but obviously you're not going to wait until May to ask the people you're going to ask for their letters of recommendation. When do you recommend students start asking though? Like, should they ask a month prior, 2 months prior, 3 months prior? What's like general that that general time frame that people should start asking for letters of recommendation?
The earlier the better, because it's not just you ask for a letter of recommendation. There is definitely a lot of students ask the same thing, and the professor has limited time, or the mentor have limited time to dedicate and write strong letter of recommendations. So it's better to start the process as soon as you decided to apply for medical school. The match cycle, try to request a letter of recommendation, because it need a lot of time to write a very good letter of recommendation, and also stay on the top of your request. You can send reminder emails, reminder requests to make sure the letter of recommendation submitted on time.
Okay, makes perfect sense. Yeah, and that's a good point, that it's not just you asking for a letter of recommendation. It's most likely all of their students and all of the people that they're working with. So they probably have a huge list.
Exactly.
And you want to be earlier on the list.
Exactly.
So what is a message that you have for parents who want their kids to be successful doctors?
I think number one, to try to avoid to be pushy. Say, if you're a doctor, or your wife is a doctor, or the two parents are doctor, there always tendency put your kids under pressure to be the same thing, to be a doctor. This is not the right approach, because medicine is long journey and have a lot of bump during the road, and you need to make sure that your lovely kids love the journey, and they have to be understand the challenges during the journey. So my recommendation for the parents, to avoid to be pushy, and don't put your kids under pressure to be a doctor if they don't like to be a doctor. I mean, they can explore other options, because at the end of the day, you don't like your kids to be a doctor but fail doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Will be a disaster for your kids and for you as a parents.
Or that they actually become a doctor and they just hate their life.
Or harm people.
Or harm people.
Yes.
Do admission committees care about total hours of clinical research and volunteers and shadowing experience, or do they care more about the quality of the hours? Total hours versus quality of hours?
I think both factors counts, the quality and the quantity, but also the quality is important, because you need to do some. We always like to see
meaningful
work and work that has impact, and people who can contribute to medicine, because we are looking for this will be a good, outstanding student, will be a good image for the school, for themselves. So definitely quantity and the quality are very, very important.
And in terms of hours, how many hours do admission committees typically want to see for clinical experience, for shadowing, and for volunteering?
I don't think there's a set or solid rules how many hours, because it's the impact and how you present yourself during the interview, and how this will prove to your application. But there is no set of how many hours. We need to make sure that you have enough shadowing, enough volunteering, or enough clinical research to prove to the admission committee that you're really passionate about being a doctor and to join the healthcare.
Okay. Makes sense. What does the actual admissions committee discussion look like when they're deciding who gets in? And if there's a disagreement about a student, how does the committee handle that? Like, does one person have the final say? Or is there like a voting system? Or how does it work behind the scenes?
Yeah, there's admission committee that review all the applications, and at the end of interview, each interviewer submit the recommendation for the interview. Usually there is 2 or 3 interviewers that submit this is high priority, and they try, if everyone say this is high priority, and it will be straightforward, the admission committee look for the leadership, look for the letter of recommendation, different things, and then everyone vote. It's a voting process, and most of the time it's acceptance, and by acceptance the medical school. If there is a split between the interviewers and a split between the the committee, the vote, and then the chair of the committee decide at the end. It's a voting process, and the chair of the committee who decide at the end.
So if there's a tie between who gets in and who doesn't, the chairman of the committee has the final decision.
Yes.
Okay. If a student received a pre-match, would you recommend they take it right away, or would you recommend they kind of wait for other options to come in?
I say if the school of the student received the pre-match offer for the school he likes, definitely let's go for it. No hesitancy to take it. But if the student the school is not his first priority, he may wait a little bit to see other options. But definitely, if I got the pre-match from the school I like, definitely I will go ahead and take it.
Okay, and if you got a pre-match from a school that's not really your number one option,
yes,
you would recommend just wait a little bit?
Maybe wait a little bit, especially when you have multiple interviews. But if you have very few interviews and you receive a pre-match in one school, just go for it, because you will not get the offer from the other school. But you have 10 interviews or a lot of interviews, you have a good chances to get into other medical school, and this pre-match offer comes from the school is not your number one school. You may give yourself extra time, maybe get another offer or a better option in your view.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So we talked about how the medical school application opens up in May. Let's say someone has everything ready and they submit in May. Then what? What does that future timeline look like?
Yeah, remember this. In Texas Medical School and Dental School has a time frame, and also each school has its own time frame for applications. I say once the application submitted in May, usually the interview conducted during August, maybe July, August, November till January, and then the batch results usually come in February, and then finalize, I think, in March, and then the white coat ceremony usually happen in May, and then the school year or start in July, August timeframe.
Makes sense. So this is an absolute worst case scenario. What if a student applies to medical school and they just get rejected from every single one?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's really disappointing for a lot of students. But really, it's a challenging situation, and the way you manage it is very very important. I think number one, you have to be first of all avoid disappointment, because this is very important to have a hope that you can match at some point if really you like medicine. And number two, you have to reach out to the people on the schools and maybe have some feedback. Some schools provide feedback. What happened was a weak letter of recommendation with a weak scores or MCAT score or something you need to be fixed. And then you work on your weak points. Say if the MCAT is a problem, try to redo the test again, try to improve your MCAT. The GPA is very difficult to change at this point. And then you can take extra time to do more research work, reach out to people to do research, or reach out to people to get a master's degree in some sort related to medicine. And then the bottom line, you need to fix the weak points on your application, either letter of recommendations, MCAT score, or research experience or shadowing experience. Once you get this all fixed, then you can reapply. And then you have to show to the people that you are really persistent. You really need to be passionate of medicine, and this is what I'm reapplying multiple times till I get accepted.
You have this goal and you're not going to stop until you get in.
Exactly.
And you're improving every time, it's small improvements along the way.
Yes.
Going back to the topic of letters of recommendation, in terms of medical school letters of recommendation specifically, what separates a strong letter from an average or a weak letter? And what are you looking for when you're reading them?
The letter of recommendations?
Yes.
So the letter of recommendations, we look for the description of the person who wrote the letter of recommendations about the how the student is the problem solving skills of the student, communication skills, interaction with other people in the class or the other people in the lab if you're doing research, and also how the ranking of the student between the other students, top 5%, top 10%, or just the average students, that make a huge difference in the letter of recommendations.
And what separates a strong letter of recommendation from a weak one?
I think when the letter of recommendation focus on the personal traits that make the students different from other students, and also the communication skills and the ranking of the students compared with other students.
Perfect. How do you choose who to ask when you want a letter of recommendation?
I think my recommendation to try to pick up the mentor or the professor that work mostly with you, and he knows you very well, and also willing to spend the time and effort to give you a strong letter of recommendations, and also is convinced that you are one of the best students he worked with.
Yeah, so that's all the questions that I have for today. I just want to thank you for taking the time. A lot of people are having difficulty when it comes to the medical school admissions process because there's not really a lot of guidance out there. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for answering the questions. And we're really providing a lot of value to people.
Thank you for having me. I think that's very important topic to discuss, and my recommendations for the students to make sure that you love medicine, you like to be a doctor, and get well prepared. It's a long journey and need a lot of preparation. Thank you so much for having me.